Hello, welcome to Conversations. My name is Edith Yassin, and today we're going to be taking a look at something that is an ill in our society. We're going to be talking about child labor. But I can't have this conversation alone. I have in the house Rakiba.
Hi, Edith.
And we have Nike also.
Hi, how are you doing today?
We're good. And your dress is popping. I love the red.
Thank you so much.
You guys always look so pretty. Anyway, before we go into this conversation proper, we want you to take a look at this video.
I am in a mechanic village in Maradaba trying to reflect life. And I struck apprenticeship with a young man, Mujahid. Mujahid is 9 years old and he's fully kitted as a mechanic. But then one thing struck me. What's secret in there that brings Mujahid out of the embrace of his mother and out of the embrace of school to a mechanic village? What secret is that? Why can't this little boy go to school?
My father come out for me.
Your father removed you out of school? Why did he remove you?
He said the school is too money.
They are charging too much fees from the school? The case of a person like Mujahid, is it child labor or skill acquisition? At what age are you competent to be described as maybe learning skill? And at what age could your work be described as child labor?
I attend this thing, Bagalape Junior Secondary School, because they opened the school new. So as we start, they not used to pay money. So later, they now said I should pay money, and we don't have money. That is the reason why she said I should go and sell.
Which parent would like his his child to be hawking when others are in the school? Will any parent like it? What I'm trying to say is it's condition that cause it.
Many women rely on their husband. Most of the men now, most of them, they are jobless. They don't have a house to live. So how do you expect those people to pay for their children's education? No.
Now, Rakiba, when you were growing up, what were your chores like?
Well, growing up, I can remember when I was about 5 years old. I love being around my mom when she's cooking, helping her unwrap the Maggi, passing salt, helping out in my own little way.
Okay.
Because usually she gets scared when I try to say I want to boil an egg, and all that.
Because you were too young.
Yes,
you were probably
yes,
too young.
yes.
And while doing those chores, did you have other people that were not core members of the nuclear family come in to help with the household work?
Yes, we did. We had two. Yes,
Okay.
helping out in the house with the household, because my mom is 9 to 5. She goes to work at from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So
Okay.
they usually stay back at home and help to take care of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And during that time, did it make you not do any chores?
Not really. I was
My dad was a former military official. He was in the army. And so growing up for us was pretty regimented. You wake up at a certain time. You have to make your bed. You have to make your bed. You always have to make your bed. Sweeping, washing clothes, not bed sheets, obviously, but your uniform, your undies, cooking. Yes, we did a bit of cooking, but Saturday morning, there's no sitting and watching TV on the Saturday morning. No way. There was quite a bit of work.
About Saturday, I remember my dad usually Saturday is like a sanitation day.
Yeah, you have to wake up
Even
and
You
clean.
have to wake up at 8 a.m. and sweep the whole house.
Exactly. Even before sanitation became a thing.
Yes,
there was
yes,
sanitation
yes,
on
of
Saturdays in
course.
every
I mean,
house.
there were rules, right?
Yes.
So now we want to narrow all of this conversation. The reason for this conversation is because we want to narrow it down to why we have people, young children, doing labor in the house. And you can tell that they're different from the main children in the house. And this is the part of child labor that really gets to me. Apart from the hawking on the streets, the fact that you have a household with children, and then can I say, quote unquote, there are primary children and there are secondary children.
Yes.
The children of the house owner get to sit around and do nothing, while the children that have come in to help do everything in the house.
Absolutely.
Okay,
everything.
I'm older than both of you, so I can testify here that we never lived without people working in the house. But there were always rules. I had to wash my plate. I had to take my plate away from the dining table. It was never the place of anybody helping in the house to take my plate from the dining table to the kitchen. And if I was in a hurry, that was the least I could do, take the plate from the dining table
But
to the
Edith, we don't have that anymore today. There used to be rules. Yes, we now have households where there are young children, and I'll use the word children, that are doing the work of the children in the house. So children aren't even learning chores anymore like we did, because there are people who are, sometimes they're so poorly paid or not even paid at all, that are doing this work, you know. And like you said, the primary and the secondary children in the house, they're dressed differently, they're fed differently, where they sleep is also quite different.
And you know, this is a terrible ill, because in as much as we want the best for our children, when there's a child out there that's not getting the same that your own child is getting, the difference will tell, and there will come a time in the society where that child is going to take his pound of flesh. You understand what I'm saying? And we can see that already being unleashed in the society, the inequality of the children of the haves and the children of the have-nots. Yesterday I was driving home, and right in front of me there was a robbery. And what did they do? There was a young child hawking, and apparently he was doing a recce of the cars because it was drizzling. He came alongside, and the thought in my mind yesterday was that, okay, why is he doing this? Why is he hawking in the rain? Who is going to buy a soft drink in the rain? He came, he did a recce of about 10 cars, and then later someone a little bit older than him. And then when he did the recce, he now crossed the road. And then about 10 minutes later, someone older than him now came up and attacked the car in front of me. Wow. So what that young child had done was he had taken the sensors of whose window was down, whose car was unlocked, who was holding onto his laptop or phone.
Yes.
And then when the older guy came up, he quickly just went straight to that car, jacked the door open, jacked the door open and took 2 handsets and fled across the road into the bushes.
And you're so startled that you don't even know what to do.
It actually happened to me at
so you see, when we keep these children out of school, when there's child labor, these children learn a lot of evil things, and there's a lot of imbalance in the society, and this leads to a whole lot of other evil things in the society.
You know, it actually happened to me. There was a time, it was even on my birthday, unfortunately. I just got a new phone. I needed to, you know, do a SIM swap and everything. I left Emma Plaza on my way back home. Just the junction before Garki stores. As I was moving, my friend was actually driving. I was on the passenger side, and then the window was wind down. So as we were just moving, we stopped for the traffic light to give us a go, so we can move. And then a guy came, as like you said, hawking. Yeah, he just passed by the window, and I thought he was just trying to, you know, beg for money or something like that. I was trying to reply messages on my phone, the people that sent me birthday messages and all that. The next thing I knew was he just grabbed the phone, just like that.
And he left with the phone?
Yes, he left with the phone. I was so lost that I came out of the car without my slippers on, and I was trying to go after him because I wasn't even myself. It just happened suddenly.
And yesterday, actually, it was a car full of guys. It was a car full of guys. One had a reflex and he gave chase. But when he got to the edge of the road and the bushes, he now had to think, you know, what if I get into this bush and they ambush me? So he had to wait for others to come out of the car. And, you know, it was a very expensive, in fact, he grabbed 2 expensive phones. The person, the young child that did the recce for him did a good job. And this is how deliberately in our society we have children doing child labor and learning crime on the street, learning how to survive as criminals, as petty thieves, trying to make their own way by themselves. It doesn't work. But when we narrow it down to the household, I do believe that in any household, if the nuclear family needs to bring in a child, let that child not be doing labor as if as if it's not a child. Every child has capacity. If a 6-year-old has to draw water with 20-liter buckets, with a 20-liter bucket.
How old should a child be allowed to be like a house help?
Well, frankly speaking, our society there's no ideal.
Yeah, really, there isn't.
Our standards are very low.
As early as 8 years old.
As early as 6.
Being a nanny.
Primarily because the parents can't take care of the child's day-to-day needs.
That
so
is it.
It's sometimes they don't even
Nikia,
collect.
would you allow an 8-year-old to look after your twins?
No, I wouldn't.
No.
I wouldn't. That's,
Definitely not.
That's like a baby taking care of a baby for me. You know?
Okay, so and in such circumstances, the really responsible people, they take on a ward. You take on a ward based on what you have said, because families, their own families cannot afford to keep them, cannot afford to fend for them.
Yes.
But my own thought is that every time you take on someone like that, you should just treat them the way you would treat your own child.
Yes.
Why? As I keep saying, if the society doesn't take care of such children, they will come back for their pound of flesh. And when they do, it is always vicious. We have seen it in the society. We have seen it in insurgency. We have seen young children being used as cannon fodder.
Yes.
They've seen young children being used as child soldiers, even right here in Nigeria. So when such things happen, when children are forced to do that kind of labor, we should also remember that whatever we do to such children, they will come back for their pound of flesh.
You know what just came to my mind as you spoke? So when you do meet a child selling eggs, selling sweets, selling tissue paper or whatever on the streets, are you helping them by patronizing them, by buying from them? Is that helping them? So do you buy? Do you not buy? Do you tell the child, why are you not in school? You know they're not going to go to school if you ask them to. So how do you help? How do you make this situation a bit better?
Well, the truth is, it is a catch-22, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if you buy, you're encouraging him to come back tomorrow.
So maybe that's
Exactly.
the only thing he gets to do that day when you buy from him.
So if you buy, you're encouraging him to come back tomorrow. But if you don't buy, you feel guilty. I always feel guilty. And there are days I say, why are you not in school? And sometimes I actually do say it angrily, because I'm also just lashing out, because what can you do really when it's almost
What
public?
really breaks my heart sometimes when people want to buy like bananas from a young child that's selling on the street. The child is trying to sell it to you. Bargaining. Oh my goodness, bargaining. And no, it's 300. No, this thing is 100 now, and you will argue and argue.
And maybe
and
that's
haggle.
just what they need to eat.
You know, and truth be told, you can afford that extra 100 naira. You know, and those are the kind of things that break my heart.
Culturally too, we've come up in a system being primarily agrarian society, large families, so children can go to work on the fields and all that. But then, even if it is in such settings, traditionally, it's always an extended family kind of setting. So in the extended family kind of setting, you take in the children of relatives and all that, and the bigger your farm, the more help you need. But I think under such settings, because there are checks and balances, there's no way you could maltreat somebody to the extent where they're feeling like they're laborers or slaves.
Yes.
In such settings, even traditionally, we used to have that, but there was control over how much you could make a child do, and there was no way you were going to be allowed to tell somebody else's child to go to the farm and your child is home.
Yes,
you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And also, parents used to go to the farm with the children and supervise things. So even if there were injustices in such situations, it would be minor injustices.
I have a story. Just about a month ago, I was speaking to my parents that, when you come up to a certain level in society, you just want to give back. So I said, isn't there any family, any relative that I could take one of the young girls, young boys to stay and groom, stay with me and all that? And they were like, yes, well, it's a good idea, but they kind of discouraged me from doing that, because sometimes it starts off as a fantastic idea, but somehow either the parents from the home from where the child comes from are expecting way too much from you,
or the child is not appreciative,
so somehow the idea, which seemed like a fantastic idea on my end, they were like, no, let's just leave it.
Yes, it happens like that. I mean, bringing in extended family is always difficult, especially when you're living in the city and you have a nuclear setting already, and you bring in a cousin. It's happened several times to us in the family. You bring in a cousin, and the next thing, tales are carried back. So and so said so, and then you have issues with, oh, I wasn't fed well. I didn't eat enough, and you know, all kinds of silly tales. And then there's so much back and forth. Yeah.
You know, I want to help, but you're just wondering what are the backlash effects of this if I take the child on and then, you know, it flips over somehow.
Okay, you talked about side effects of such families. So, do you have a perspective on that?
Yes, I think the side effects are quite numerous, especially nowadays that we're having issues, girls getting married and they don't even know how to cook for their husband. A lot of marriages have broken up because of the lady not being able to do the house chores. You can make your husband's bed, you can wash even a singlet, you know, lots of it. And then I think parents think by not engaging their children in the household, you know, activities, it's like showing love, pampering them, but I think it does more harm than good, because at the end of the day, when your children get married and then they go off to their husband's house, you're not there with them. You're not there with
It's
them.
funny, that happened to my cousin though. After like the second week in marriage, you know, she was just lying on the couch and he just realized this lady is never going to clean the house, and he picked up a rag and started cleaning, and she now realized, oh,
confidently, she said, I don't cook, and my husband knows that. He
Okay,
gets the
yeah,
cook.
we've had back and forth conversations on
cooking.
Twitter. You know, sorry, I'm a social media person. Most of the time, I go there and I check out conversations, and you have all kinds of conversations about hashtag cook. Knowing how to cook is not love. I don't have to know how to cook for a man to love me. Those kind of stuff. And you know what? I just say, knowing how to cook is a life skill. Basically, it is a life skill. And every day you sit on the couch and the cousin or the house help or the ward is in the kitchen learning how to cook. That is a life skill. We have talked about people who have gone into the business of making soup. So you can, they sell soup. They just sell soup. So while the ward or the house help or the maid, whichever politically correct word it is,
to use,
is learning life skills. You're on the couch, tapping away on your device. You are just doing harm to yourself. You need life skills.
I like
it's not every day that you're going to have somebody there to support you. There will be a day that you'll be thrown out there, because life is like that. It goes around in circles. You're 18, you're 19, you're off to school, you're off to college. It's not every day you're going to have someone around cooking for you. So you have to learn life skills, cleaning, cooking, all of those things.
It's like tying your shoe, really. You should learn how to tie your shoe. You should learn how to fry an egg. It's just the basics of life, really, really.
Although these days, knowing how to make noodles is a life skill. So, I mean, that's the basic now. That's the least you should know how to do.
But I think what I have to say about this, I feel the ladies should get more involved. Even though your parents will want to pamper you, they want everything done for you because they feel they love you. I think you yourself should go into the kitchen. Make yourself proud. Try and know how to cook. What's a lady if she can? Who is a lady if she can go into the kitchen and then cook for her husband and her family?
It's actually true.
And some men don't even allow other housemates to cook for them.
Yes, that's very true.
Depending on where the husband is coming from.
I didn't have anyone helping me when it was just me and my husband for the first 3 or 4 years of our marriage. When I got pregnant, then I knew that I absolutely needed some help, and that's when we got someone to come in and help with the cleaning. I did everything myself. And
I just want to chip in here that if you have anybody helping in the house and that person is below 18, the least you could do for such a person is make them go to school. The least, that's the least, the minimum you can do. The parents of your ward might want money. They might want other extras, but you must tell them that this child is going to school and you should not expect more than this, and this for this reason. Because if the last young person that was with me, I put down the rules. I said, you know what? She's going to school. They said she had finished primary 6, but when she came to Abuja, no school would take her into secondary school.
Because of the level of...
the level of education.
Yeah.
Wow.
We tested her for primary 6. She couldn't make that. We tested her for primary 5. No way.
Wow.
We had to take her way down to primary 2 for her to learn how to read and write.
Wow.
But the parents were not happy. They wanted money.
Exactly.
They thought I was wasting their time talking about education. They wanted me to send money to them. And I said, you know what? It's either this or the highway. I'm not going to pacify you and leave this child. I can't have a child in my house out of school. That is the barest minimum.
Growing up, we had a young person. She was about 17 when she joined us. My parents eventually sent her to tailoring school. She learned how to make clothes, and they eventually bought a sewing machine and then another one. And there's one that's for buttonholes.
Yeah.
You know, she ended up staying with us for 13 years. So she's not like a sister.
Yeah, she is.
She's a sister.
I
really.
have 2 aunties. Same.
But you know, in some instances where children do not want to go to school, maybe they've tried, they really wanted to learn and go to school, but they've tried, maybe, you know, they're not doing good, they're not meeting up with the demands of school and everything, and they decide on their own they do not want to go back to school. And then I think in this instance, can you like help them, empower them in a way, or like take them to catering school?
Definitely,
yeah,
definitely, that's a way out. Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. There was such a young person.
Yeah.
She 3 years, and she wasn't getting it in school.
Exactly.
She probably had a learning disability that had not been caught
Yes,
early.
yes.
Exactly.
So
That's a topic for another show, learning disabilities.
Yeah. So the next step was masa.
Okay.
That was it. What would sell if you went back to your village? Masa would sell, right?
Yes, it would.
Sorry, we
definitely.
keep saying masa. That's the rice cake.
Rice cake.
And so that was it. We sent her to a lady that was very good at it,
Yeah.
and she learnt the skill, and we bought her all of the things that
She
could-
needed.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's
And
not all
yeah,
about school. You can
yeah.
just empower them,
You-
know where
you must
what they're
bet.
good at, and then you just put more effort on
And you
that.
know what another money spinner is? Hair, making hair.
Yeah.
All of these
Braiding
things.
and things like that.
So, but you see, what we really must not go away from is, what is child labor? Can we define that? Because I started doing stuff at an early age. Really, my mom was working, but she had a business, and would come back from school, would have to go clean the place. It was a restaurant. You would go there and clean. And
Right after school.
Yeah, and on weekends, if it was really busy, you would go in and serve.
Was it
You
ever too
understand?
much? Was it ever too much?
Yeah, no, but you know.
Was it ever too much for you?
Yeah, there were days I thought, why is she making me do this? I'm a child, for goodness sake. But now that I'm grown, really, I appreciate that
Yes.
she made me understand the value of work.
Yeah.
It wasn't about just sitting around and getting money to go to school, money to pay this, money to pay that.
Exactly.
She showed me the value. So you have to do a balance of at what age should a child begin to labor?
Yes.
At what age should we worry that this is too much for a child? But the basic thing is that every child must be in school. Every child must learn something that will empower
Speaking
them.
about labor and entering the job market, how young were you when you did your very first job? Did you have any summer job, holiday job, anything like that?
Well, my summer job was in my mom's restaurant, and she never paid me.
What about you, Rakiba? Any summer?
Not that I can think of.
Really? It never worked before?
But I started business like selling off stuff from my own handbag.
Okay.
When I was about 11 years old.
Okay.
Wow,
I think
well-
I was about 16, 17 too. But it was close to home. It was my mom's sister. She had a shop and I went to help her out.
You know, there's a belief that guys are not meant to be in the kitchen. The kitchen does not belong to guys. What do you think about that?
That's so wrong though. I mean, I have a almost 3-year-old and I believe that with time he's going to be the one scraping the carrots like you mentioned. I think boys really at an early age should be taught these life skills, just as Edith mentioned.
Yeah.
It's so important because you never know. There'll be a day that mommy won't be there to help him do things. So at an early age, boys need to know these things, and not depend on the significant other in future to be doing these things. If for some odd reason his wife leaves for a course or whatever, he can fend for himself, he can sort
There's
himself
always an
out.
emergency.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, when they call them life skills, they're not called life skills for nothing. There will come a time when you definitely need to step up and do something. And you know, there's a perception sometimes that we kind of skew towards the young women and leave the men out of it. And it tells on the society, because eventually eventually the man has to help the woman. It is not a one-side thing to raise a family, especially when a family comes along, when you start having children. The man has to help, especially if the woman has been working and she has to go back to work. She needs a man that knows what it means to do domestic chores. And you know what? Domestic chores, nobody pays for them. It is a thankless job.
Yes.
You know, it is a thankless job. Yes. And there is no point saying one person should do it all the time in the household, because eventually a lot of resentment builds up and it affects the marriage. So men should also learn how to do chores. We used to live in a society that was so skewed because women did not really have to work. Men could fend for the family. But now the times have changed. We need the two streams of income from both the woman and the man to keep a family comfortable. And the man must know how to do some chores to help in the house so that there would be no resentment. And you know, it dovetails into the other bit where, okay, you need someone to help. Then you go and take somebody else's child and come and start abusing that child. I mean, it's just so vicious, you know.
That there's a thin line between child labor and child abuse. The line is so thin. You can tip overboard at any point in time. You know what particularly irks me sometimes is when you see a young child still washing dishes at 9:30, 10, when the child ideally should be in bed. Bedtime for me is so important. Kids need rest. A lot of rest.
They need rest.
I can fire on after 6 hours of sleep, but these kids need enough time, about 8 hours.
8 hours, 8 to 10 hours.
8 to 10 hours.
Depending on the child's also emotional well-being and all that. So and it's not as if child labor is completely negative. That's why I keep saying that we must maintain a balance.
Yes, sure.
But I do not want kids on the street. I do not want kids hawking.
Is that avoidable?
I do not want, I mean, I have to be idealistic sometimes. I do not want kids on the street hawking, because all kinds of other dangerous things happen. And the other day, in fact, we were having a conversation and somebody was saying, oh, girls get raped. And I was like, excuse me, boys too get raped. There are perverts out there. So whenever you're talking about the kind of things that children are exposed to once they are left on the street doing that kind of labor, there are so many things that...
Especially in this age, people that you would have thought were our trusted members of society are just turning out to...
people close to you,
it's scary. It's really scary.
So you have to be careful who you allow close to your children.
Yes.
So these are dangerous times, and I think that parents should step up and take responsibility for children. In the end, if you bring a child into this world, you should be responsible for the child. Exactly. That is just the bottom line. In that way, you would, if you abuse your child, you're the one abusing the child. You're the one exposing the child to all of that. If we were all responsible for the children we brought into this world, some of the problems would be curtailed.
And we should understand there's a difference between pampering and then teaching your child the basic life skills. There should be. Too much love doesn't mean allowing the child to just relax at home and getting everything done for him doesn't mean you love him too much. I think you're doing more harm than good. Yes.
So in all of this, you know, child labor, the intense child labor that is abusive, now exposes children to a lot of things. And as I mentioned about the perverts out there on the street, we have also young girls getting pregnant at an early age because they're out there on the street trying to fend for themselves. And then, of course, there's that imbalance that now sets in. If a child begins to fend for themselves and they're doing child labor, it means that they've taken back the power. They're no longer answerable to any adult. And that also brings a breakdown in the society. We'll be right back. This is the conversation, and we're going to bring in the next topic, which is teenage pregnancy. Is not unrelated to what we've been talking about. But before we launch into it proper, we're going to bring you this short feature.
Doctor, how is she?
Your friend is stable.
Oh, thank God.
Where are her parents? I think her mother is on her way.
Oh, I see. I can't believe that your friend is 6 weeks pregnant and her parents didn't know anything about it. A 14-year-old girl. And to think that you gave her abortion pills. How old are you?
17.
God!
Oh my God. Oh my God. Happiness, where is Joy? Where is Joy?
Is this her mother?
Happiness, where is Joy?
Doctor!
Oh God. My daughter fainted. She was foaming. What really happened? Tell me! Oh God. Oh God. Joy has killed me. No, Joy. Oh God. Oh my God. Oh God. Oh. No. I better not think I to my daughter. Doctor. Where is Joy? She's my only daughter.
Let's go to
Wait, that's my daughter. What happened? I'm not going anywhere. Just tell me. Oh God.
We lost her.
Oh my God.
Oh, we're very sorry. We lost her.
You lost who?
Oh, please. Please.
Joy!
Please. Cut.
Heartbreaking scenes there, and this just makes me wonder, how do we deal with the situation of teenage pregnancy or pregnancy in very young girls?
You know what, Edith? I believe that this conversation, this particular one, is for every woman out there, especially those that are in their offices right now, because there's so much that's happening in your home that you don't know. You're so wrapped up being a chief executive, a manager of a shop or an office, wherever you are, and you don't know what's going on to the young girl that's in your home. We're exposed to so many things. People tend to think that teenage pregnancy is something that happens on the street. It's happening in our homes. It's happening in our homes to our cousins, to our younger sisters, to our wards, to our house helps.
And you know, I don't know how people get educated about what is right and what is wrong concerning, can I say sex education? How is it done now? How do we have these conversations? How do you think? What is the right way? You're young. How did it happen for you? How did you begin to understand that there are certain things that are not meant to be, and it was the knowledge that would shield you? How did that happen?
You know, growing up, I had a lot of aunts, a lot of sisters around me, and then we just sit sometimes and they would tell you, once a guy goes there, just run away or say no or come back to us and tell us there are certain areas a guy is not allowed to touch. If someone is getting close to you, that was as I was about 8 years old, I had that in my head, that even if it's my brothers, there are certain limits. There is a limit a guy should go. Yes, irrespective of his age or how close you are with him. So it has always been there in my head, and I think it helped me.
You had someone to tell you that. There are a lot of girls that come into the city to work for an auntie or so, and they don't have this kind of exposure or information. So someone is touching them and will probably give them 500 naira. After that, they're like, oh, okay, this is kind of like a bonus to me, and I probably won't say anything. Or the guy will say, don't say anything, and they really don't know that it's wrong until it's too late.
Yeah. And conversations about personal space for both young, for all young people, male and female. You must have conversations about what the personal space is. How close to you can someone get? You understand? We must have these conversations. We must educate our young people about what is right and what is wrong concerning their personal space, concerning their bodies. Yes. Now, as somebody said, it is not about how or what, it is about protecting yourself. You're not teaching a child about sex, you're teaching a child about how to protect themselves.
Yes,
So
I think that's
you
where
must
most
also
parents get it wrong because they feel I'm starting to talk about sex with my child at this early age. What am I
can't deal with that.
But like you said, it's about protecting your child. It's not about the sex education. It's
And
about
ladies-
telling him how to she or he should protect himself.
Back to the viewers that are watching us, the ladies in the offices. A lot of you need to be approachable. You know, there's a young girl in your house that might have an issue. It could be anything stemming from a headache to a hormonal imbalance, a mood swing. You need to be sensitive to that because you never know just what it is that she's trying to tell you. Some of us are not approachable. You just drop your bag, you're in a mood, there's traffic, the kids need to do homework and you can't deal.
Yeah, we can't deal sometimes, you know, we can't deal. You know what? Children pick up on stuff a lot, but there should be a small window, no matter how tired you are. When your child wants to approach you or somebody that works in your household wants to approach you, there should be a little window. They should be able to read your body language and you should be able to read your child's body language. You should be able to know when it is an emergency, when the child is afraid, when the child feels hurt. You should be able to read those signs, but they're not things you can pick on if you're not present all the time.
Present in the
you
home.
have to be present, and when I say present, it doesn't mean 247, but when you're spending quality time
With your child.
there should be that capacity to relate, to bond, to interact.
Yes.
So when the red flag goes up, you can pick it immediately.
Which
If the child says uncle did this and uncle is there and uncle is making the eye, you're going to ignore uncle and face your child and say, you know what, tell me what uncle did.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? Those are the kind of bonds that we should build with our
And back
children.
to time, with spending time with your children, I love the fact that we have weekends, you know, where you can actually, everything from watching a program with the child, you can start up the conversation from something on the TV and say, oh, you know, is there anyone that has talked to you in this manner? There's so many ways of
to
opening.
start,
Yes, it's not we're talking
conversations.
about sex and then, you know, the child is like, oh my goodness. You could come in to the conversation in so many
It
ways.
should be more of parental guidance, even what they watch on the TV.
TV.
Yes.
And on what they do on their tabs.
Yes.
Every child now,
Now
I
has
know,
an iPad,
has an iPad, has a
technology.
tab,
I know.
or
A child
has
can
a
Google something on YouTube and watch it.
I'm concerned if I don't
too
buy a
advanced.
tablet for my child, does that mean I'm not a good parent? Does that mean I'm not exposing them to
You-
what
you-
their needs have? I've thought of this so many times,
Yeah,
you know, because
it's very difficult.
there's some horrific things out there that I don't want my children exposed to.
Yeah, well, you know what? The technology comes with some control. You understand? It comes with some control, and it just depends on how much you want to control and at what age you think your child is responsible. So we also have to look at what they find on social media. When you have to keep control on that, so that you know you will know what information your children are getting from the internet and how they're handling such information. And also there's also some kind of pressure sometimes from
Of
peers,
course.
right?
Yeah, maybe the same peer group, you know, the kind of friends they keep, you have to watch who they hang out with. And because you might be able to train your child in a very modest way, but you don't know where the other child is coming from. You don't know what is happening over there in the house. So, and most times when their friends come over, you don't, you know, have to be around them 247. So you have to talk to your child, understand, you know, you can just bring up conversation, like you said, understand your child's body language. And then there are ways you communicate with your child and you know if there's something that's happening, you know.
And of course, we keep talking about the households where it's even safe. Children that are out on the street hawking,
It's
they're
not
even more
safe.
exposed.
Yeah, they're even more exposed.
The dangers are just numerous. They're just numerous. And when we say teenage pregnancy, okay, young girls would get pregnant, young boys still get raped.
Yes.
And how do we deal with this? What are the things that we can do that will just help the society, you know, understand that there are such terrible problems.
Things out there. Information really, but my challenge is where are they going to be getting the information from? Definitely not from the home setting. So, I mean, is it through outreaches? Is it through the NGOs? How do you get the children on the street to know that these kind of things are happening and that it's absolutely wrong? Because you find some really young girls backing very young babies on the streets in the hot sun selling something that won't even give them that much of a profit.
Sometimes the information doesn't even even if it's been passed, they don't usually use it.
Yeah,
The best thing is to do
well-
is to eradicate, I think, street hawking if it's possible.
That is
To
just
reduce
where
it,
I
yes.
just want children off the street.
To
I need
minimize it,
children in
to
protective
eradicate
custody, and we can do it.
We
We are
can.
a nation that can do that. We need to get our children off the street. And you know, in Cross River State, I think they had the problem of the Skolobo boys and
Okay.
Skolobo girls. They had young children that were out on the street fending for themselves. And there was drugs, there was sex, there was trafficking, there was all kinds of, in fact, there was some form of prostitution going on right there with those kids. But I think the government has stepped in now, and they're trying to get those children off the street. And these are children that, you know, a father married a second wife. The first wife had died, and he married a second wife. And she just looked at the boy and said, you know what? You're bad. You're an evil child. You're out of the house.
Out of the house.
And the father used to travel to, I think, the River State. The father worked in River State, and they were in Cross River State. And while the father was away, she sent the boy out of the house.
Just like
and
that.
He was out on the street, and he joined that gang. That's one of the stories from the Skolobo kids. And that's just how kids just get thrown out into the streets for no
Because when
good
they don't
reason.
have anywhere to go, where else?
Yeah.
So what do you do?
So
Do
they
you
form
rescue
groups.
kids
That is it.
in groups? Do you rescue them? Do you shelter them? Who's going to pay for all that?
The government
The
has
government,
to step up.
exactly. You as an individual cannot do much. Believe me.
And then, of course,
It has
we probably would have to step up the game and ask people, big corporations, what is their corporate social responsibility?
That's actually true.
What is the problem that is peculiar to your neighborhood, to your town, to your state? What about baby factories where deliberately people
I
keep
was
young
getting to
girls
that.
to make them have babies that get sold? Now, it is a very broad spectrum
It is.
of criminal behavior and criminal activity that involves very young people. And these are disadvantaged young people who are in child labor, who are working in homes, who just get exposed to a whole spectrum of crime, and they're just molested all the time. So, I mean, I think corporate social responsibility is part of it.
You know, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation right now, because there are people that are watching and saying, oh, you know, we have a plan for 2017, but we don't know exactly.
Yeah, what
we don't
should
know
we
what
do
we're
with that
going to
money?
do. I think
Yeah.
we're
You could take that money, yeah.
giving, Indomie to
Yeah.
noodles to
Yeah.
you know, I think we should go a step
Finally,
forward
touching,
and do something
Changing
different.
people's lives
Yeah.
and going in. I mean, we are just barely scratching the surface on this, because even in advocacy, you find that the IDPs have become another area where
It's so
we have
sad,
young
some of
people
the
who are
stories.
exposed to a whole lot of stuff. Young girls that have to trade in sex for food, for a plate of food. Those reports have been made in IDPs.
It's so
in the
sad.
Northeast. So,
I've seen some
I
of those
mean,
reports.
Child labor is a very broad thing. We are just barely scratching the surface, and the things that these children are exposed to. In all of this, there are consequences. And some of the consequences are abortions gone wrong, and young girls that are psychologically damaged. And of course, we also have young boys that are psychologically damaged.
Unfortunately, there's still that stigma of getting pregnant in your teenage years, where people kind of look at you funny or treat you funny because you got pregnant, or people tend to think that, well, you made a stupid mistake, when half the time it really wasn't your fault.
And so what's the way forward?
We need to do more as a society by teaching our kids how to help any lady we feel can be molested. We need to tell them, we need to educate them more about the protective measures they need to take to protect themselves from such kind of
Predators.
Yes.
So many predators out there, you're right.
Exactly. So for even the boys that you talked about, which is very true, you have to, you know, even as a boy, you can tell them you can be raped. So you have to protect yourself. It's not only about the girl.
Yes.
So you have to protect yourself. As a society, we have to come together to make sure we protect our children from such acts.
It's true. And I'd like to emphasize to the women that you really need to open your eyes and your ears when you're in your home. You never know what might be going on when you're not home. So you need to be sensitive to the environment and know exactly what's happening.
And when the civil society organizations have stuff to do, they must talk about the issues at hand, which is young children out on the streets, exposed to all kinds of things, all kinds of ills. And wherever it's possible, we should all chip in and do our best to take these kids off the street. Even if it's just one child that you take off the street, it makes a whole lot of difference.
And I think overall we need to improve the quality of life in our society.
That's it. Yeah.
Starts. Once the quality of life is so not good, you need to feed it. You need to find a way to survive. That's when you get to, people trade their bodies for food, and all that. So we have to improve the quality of life generally.
And definitely we need to take the children off the street. I can't overemphasize that. I just want, I do not want to see a single Nigerian child on the street when you're of school age. If you're 18 and above, it's okay. But once you're below 18, I think you should be out there learning a skill, going to school, and it is our collective responsibility to do that. Well, I've had a good conversation today.
Same here.
We've just scratched the surface because this is a really broad thing, but we've had a good conversation.
Of course we did.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
And it's on that note that we have to go on the show. We thank you for being a part of it. We'll do this again some other time. And do remember to join us on our media platforms.